finally, we get to the most recent Insidious movie, Insidious Chapter 3. The film was directed for the first time in the series by Leigh Whannell, the writer of the first two movies. The film is actually a prequel to the first movie set a few years prior. The film is about a young girl called Quinn. Quinn goes to Elise asking to help her contact her mother who has recently died, but Elise has retired from the business and says that she can't help. Quinn tries to contact her mother herself, but instead contacts other spirits who start to haunt her. She sees one wave to her in the street one day and she ends up getting hit by a car, and for the rest of the movie she is unable to walk. The spirits start to get worse and more violent too, so her father Sean contacts Elise, who goes into the fervor but refuses to come out after being attacked by Parker Crane from the previous movie. Sean finds two internet bloggers online called Specs and Tucker, who of course we saw in the first two movies working with Elise. Specs and Tucker come to help because Quinn is now stuck in the fervor and an evil spirit is trying to take over her body. Elise gets over her fear of Parker and comes back to help Quinn. The rest of the movie, and by rest of the movie I mean the last half an hour, is Elise travelling through the fervor to save Quinn. Okay, this is a tough film to talk about. Let's start with what I enjoyed. There are some really creepy moments in this film. The overall atmosphere of the movie is fantastic. There are a few moments in the film where I was completely hooked and was really enjoying the film, but sadly these moments are very few and far apart. This movie takes away what made the previous two movies so scary, especially the first one. The jump scares are no longer only when you see a ghost, and there are false jump scares everywhere, something that the previous two movies very rarely, if not never, did. In fact, the majority of the scares in the film are jump scares, and it really ruined it for me. What annoyed me most about them were there were a few times where ghosts would appear and there would be no loud noises at all. You saw the ghost and it was genuinely really creepy because you didn't know what it was at all. At first, the ghosts are pretty much just silhouettes and then become more and more visible as the film progresses. But then there would be jump scares randomly, even if you don't see a ghost. In fact, there are a couple of scenes where there are just random loud noises and nothing happens on screen. This made the film seem really lazy. As the film progresses, the jump scares become more and more frequent, and it just makes the film seem like your average modern horror movie, something that the previous two movies definitely weren't. I didn't find the film as terrifying as the first movie. I just sat there and every once in a while there would be a genuinely creepy scene or a shitty jump scare. The film just didn't get under my skin, and all in all I didn't find it scary. In fact, I found it a little bit boring. The look of the film is really good too. Everything looks really dark and there is a strong use of shadows that can create some really eerie situations. Now, even though I just basically touched upon most of what I didn't like about it, here are the rest of what I didn't like about the film. Leigh Whannell's direction in the film is really good when it comes down to the look of the film, but the acting, not so much. I'd honestly say that most of the performances in this film are really weak. Lin Shaye as Elise is probably the only really good performance in the film. Everyone else are not very good at all. The dialogue in the movie isn't great either. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say that the writing as a whole isn't too good as well. There are a few characters in the film who are in a couple of scenes and are never referenced again. In fact, there are a couple of subplots that are thrown away quickly too. There is a lot of unimportant moments in the film that could have been cut out. There are a few really awkward prequel tropes in the film too. You know how in every prequel they have to explain how tiny things that you never thought about happen? Well, they do that in this film. I didn't have a problem with seeing how Elise first teamed up with Specs and Tucker. That was not bad at all. But then there are random things like Elise first calling the spectral plane the fervor, and us finding out why Parker Crane wanted to kill Elise. I mean, neither of them we needed to know. It would have been creepy if we didn't know anything about Parker and that he just killed Elise because he's a psychopath. And the reason they give for him wanting to kill her isn't too fleshed out either, so in the end it doesn't make too much sense. As a whole, this isn't a bad movie at all. In fact, I would say it is good, but it doesn't have the terrifying scenes that the first film had, or the expansion of the mythology that the second movie had. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really seem that necessary. It just basically redoes the basic plot of the first movie, but changes it up a bit. I enjoyed the movie, but personally, I prefer the other films in the series. I give Insidious Chapter 3 a 7 out of 10. All in all, I really enjoy the Insidious franchise. Although the first movie is the only one in the series that I absolutely love, the sequels aren't too bad and are much better than some other horror franchises. There's no point in ranking the movies, the first one is the best and they get worse as it progresses, with the third one being the worst. I have one more trilogy to do this month which will be out in a few days, so look out for those reviews too.